used to play tackle football and football when we were young. It was always that dude on the corner that was playing in the creek with the tapos and the frogs and everything. Remember that dude? That was Tyrone Hayes. You know what I mean? And then, when we 20 years old and we the shift leader at McDonald's and he riding around with the Benz, that's Tyrone Hayes, right? You know what I mean? And so, coming up through the ranks, he went to college. He went through the medical schools. He became very popular in the medical field because he was writing papers, or straight out of college, writing papers. And his specialty is the environmental impact that herbicides have on human physiology and mammalian and reptilian physiology. The impact that environmental toxins have on the brain and on the mind of African people, of all people, right? So he wrote these papers. He was very popular. And so he became a very popular recruit for pharmaceutical companies, okay? So all the pharmaceutical companies was after Dr. Tyrone Hayes as soon as he got out of college because of his brilliant writing, that a lot of his writings were published in medical journals. And so he became a very high recruit for the pharmaceutical companies. And so he was approached in 1997 by a nonprofit company called Ego Risk. At the time, Ego Risk was subcontracting for the pharmaceutical company Novartis. Now, Novartis has since been bought out, merged in 2004 with Syngenta. So you won't see Novartis around now. Novartis is now Syngenta, okay? But in 1997, it was Novartis. And they hired Dr. Tyrone Hayes to chair a clinical study. And the clinical study was to see the impact of the herbicide atrazine and what atrazine does on human physiology, the impact that atrazine has on human physiology. Now, atrazine is sprayed on 60% of the crops in America. It's sprayed on all your corn, your soy, but primarily your corn. And before you say, well, I don't eat corn, because corn is in everything. High fructose corn syrup is in your juices. It's in your sodas. So if you drink juice, if you drink sodas, you're drinking corn. You know what I mean? So they did this study, and what they wanted to do was find out the impact that atrazine has. Now, atrazine is a very potent chemical that is sprayed on your crops for weeds. Okay. No, give me 10 minutes. Let me finish this one segment. Okay. So for the purpose of killing the weeds, it's a weed killer, and it's sprayed on all your crops. One thing about atrazine, it's based with a very toxic chemical called cyanuric chloride, cyanuric chloride, which is very, very dangerous. But the base of it is this enzyme called aromatase. That's what atrazine is made up of. It's an enzyme called aromatase. Now, you take aromatase out of the equation, and you see what aromatase is used everywhere else. Aromatase is a biosynthesizer of estrogen. It turns testosterone into estrogen, right? Now, remember, this is what's sprayed on over 50 to 60% of the crops in this country. So it goes into the food that we are consuming. And not only that, in 2004, they found that the groundwater in California, the groundwater in Pennsylvania, the groundwater in Texas was tainted heavily with atrazine, the groundwater. Now, the groundwater that goes to make your spring water, right, your juices, your sodas, the groundwater, right? So what they did was they gave, he had a team with him. He was the chairperson. And they tested 100 male frogs, and they exposed these male frogs over a period of 7 or 8, 9 months. They exposed these male frogs exclusively to atrazine. And amazingly, after the 9 months, the sex organs for all the male frogs turned into female sex organs. All the male frogs, not every last frog turned into a female, right? The sex organs for all the frogs turned into a female. Now, 90% of those frogs started to develop eggs where they now could have babies. These are male frogs that can now have babies just due to their exposure to the atrazine that is sprayed on 50% of the crops. The 50% of the crops that we are the food that we eat every day, that our children are consuming every day, right? And I submit that this is the primary reason why that you're seeing such an influx of homosexuality and lesbianism thought and behavior in our communities, right? And let me tell you how it works. What he found out, what Dr. Hayes found out was that atrazine and the components, the chemical components inside atrazine, they cause the endocrine gland, which is connected to the pituitary gland, to stop functioning. Now, the endocrine gland is necessary because the endocrine gland produces the right balance of hormones that is shot into your bloodstream via the brain's hypothalamus that gives a man a natural sense of intimacy and emotional attractability to a woman, and a woman the natural emotional attractability to a man, right, when it's balanced. But what he found out was the endocrine gland is closed down. This chemical causes it to defect and not work properly. So now you're shooting, as far as atrazine, you're shooting all estrogen into the bloodstream, right? So this is, as far as I'm concerned, this is one of the primary reasons why we're seeing such a influx of homosexual thought and behavior in ages now starting as young as 7 and 8. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. We got to stand up and fight back. This is a war that causes the genocide of our culture. 2 men cannot procreate. 2 women cannot procreate. It goes against the grain of nature. It goes against the grain of procreation, right? You know, see, the way it works is this. Like, for a man, for me, the right balance of hormones would be 85% testosterone, 15% estrogen. Through the endocrine gland, it is spit into my bloodstream. Automatically, I get a sensory of emotional attractability to women when it's 85 to 15. The same thing with women. 85 to 15, 85% estrogen, 15% testosterone, every millisecond shot into your bloodstream via the brain's hypothalamus, right? And it gives a woman a sense of intimacy and emotional attractability to the man. But when this endocrine gland does not work, it stops working, then there's no hormones going in, or sometimes too many of one going in, or sometimes not enough of one and too many of the other are going in, or sometimes no hormones are going in, or sometimes just estrogen, just testosterone, right? So then you have a sense, if you're a woman, now you're working with about 70% testosterone as a woman and 30% estrogen. And this is why you start feeling like, you know, she looks attractable to me. You know what I mean? And also Roundup, Monsanto's Roundup is even more dangerous. Monsanto's Roundup is even more dangerous to atrazine, okay? Now, Monsanto's Roundup does just the opposite. It's been known to do both, shoot too much testosterone or too much estrogen into the bloodstream. And Monsanto is sprayed in crops all over the world. It's sprayed in all the crops in Argentina, all the crops in Brazil, 70% of the crops in America, all the crops in Europe, most of the crops in Africa, Monsanto. Roundup, very, very, very dangerous, right? Currently, Monsanto is being sued. I think it's up to $400, $500 billion of lawsuits pending against Monsanto, right? Because what's happening is that not only does it cause the endocrine gland to shut down, but it also has all kind of other it causes all kind of medical breakdowns. The Monsanto's Roundup has been linked to stillborns. You know, babies coming out with 3 toes and 2 thumbs, boys coming out with 2 penises. You know what I mean? All because of the chemicals that's going into our food. You know what I mean? This is a child, the parents of this child is now suing Monsanto for $550 million because the mother was directly, the mother of this child was she directly consumed, it was proven that she directly consumed food that was tainted by Roundup. And so it caused water on the brain for the child, because water to the brain is a big, big, big problem with Monsanto's Roundup. There's a lot of lawsuits against Monsanto for water on the brain. Right? So what I'm saying is that there is now a powerful lobby. You know, now that we've assimilated into the Western value system, they feel comfortable being who they are. And who they are has always been bisexual, faggots and dykes, always. That's who they always been. Now, we want to be like them, so they're saying if you want to be like us, then you got to be like us all the way. So we're going to make you homosexuals so we can feel really comfortable around y'all, since now you want to assimilate into the Western value system. You know what I mean? So now you got to be careful, because everywhere you go now, it's like we're the minority. Don't y'all feel like that? When you go outside, you better not say nothing about faggots or dykes on your job. The gays. You would get fired. You know what I mean? You would get fired. I was working in D.C., and one day I was leaving out. This is not too long ago. I was leaving out, and the security guard pulled me to the side. He said, man, look at this, man. Look at this stuff. I looked at it. It was a memo that the security guard got, and this was like maybe a few years ago. And the memo said that the security guards had to allow people who that day decided to be a particular gender. That day. Like if you wake up and want to be a woman and you're a man, you have a right to go to the women's bathroom. And I looked at the memo. This is like a couple years ago. You know what I'm saying? So, today, this is what we're dealing with today. Gay is the new black. This is very dangerous. This is very dangerous what's going on today. This is very dangerous. You know what I mean? Man, the operative word is not gay or black, but the operative word here, the scary word here is new. Is new. You know what I mean? Because now they're saying the expectation is that the next generation of African people be all gay. The new generation. You know what I mean? Exactly. We have been our worst enemy. When I was a little boy, I used to like Flip Wilson. And I remember my mother telling me, ain't no man supposed to be wearing a dress. I'd be like, Mom, but it's funny, She'd be like, ain't no man supposed to be wearing a dress. What was the dude name? Geraldine. Yeah, Geraldine. Geraldine. And I thought it was funny. Now we're paying a price for it later. You know what I mean? But that's what they do. Today, Hollywood won't even accept a script if half the characters are not faggots or dykes. They'll look at the script, oh, this looks nice story. Not enough faggots or dykes. Take it back, restructure it, rewrite it, resubmit it. Everything you see on commercials, everything you see on TV, everything all in the movies, if you're not gay, you better accept it. You better have a best friend that's gay. You better have a coworker that's gay. They got a prominent part in that movie, in that script. You know what I mean? They are trying to homosexualize and lesbianize the entire African culture. And we have to stand up and fight back. You know what I mean? You got this dude. You know what I mean? Because, see, when a man puts on a dress, you take on the energies of what defines that dress, which is feminism. You can't be wearing dresses. You know what I'm saying? Martin Lawrence. These two faggots. The Wayans. You know what I mean? They got the whole Wayans family, didn't they? You know what I mean? This gump, right? He loves putting on a dress because he put it on privately anyway. Tyler Perry. Eddie Murphy. Even. Now, I was a little surprised about Wesley Snipes. I'm going to tell you why I was a little surprised. You know why I was a little surprised about Wesley Snipes? Is because Wesley Snipes claims to be comedic. Did y'all know that? Yeah, Amin Ra, because his first two Blade movies was under his own production team called Amin Ra Productions. He wears an ankh, you know what I mean? He was best friends with John Henrik Clark. A lot of people don't know that. You know what I mean? But that didn't stop him from allowing these Jewish Hollywood pimps to put a dress on. And then when you look at Ving Rhames and you look at Wesley Snipes, these are the two prominent so-called black action actors in Hollywood. So all the actors coming up behind them say, look, if those two men put on dresses, then I have to put on a dress. Now, here's what's going on now, because you got to be very careful, because they have the gay cartel has a very strong lobby now. And what they're trying to do is prove that every culture was always gay. And they're telling African people right now, y'all was always gay, we can prove it. And what they're doing now, they're using this photo right here. This photo is of the 5th dynastic era, and this is two conjoined twins. But we'll talk about that. This is Nia Ankh-Kum and Kum Hotep. But see, the gay cartel is putting this in magazines. It's all online. They're saying this proves that the Africans were gay at the very beginning. Go back to ancient Egypt, and they were gay as I don't know what, and this proves it. But what happened is, if you do a little bit more research, right, what the chematologists, what the Western Egyptologists did, they studied these two, and they found out that they were conjoined twins. They came in this world together, they lived together, and they're going to die and they go to the afterlife together. There's nothing gay about this picture. You know, when they found the projet or the tomb that they were in, they found a lot of documentation depicted on the temple wall, on this wall inside this tomb, right? Found out that they were fathers, they had family, they had grandkids, they had their own kids. Wasn't nothing gay about these two, but this is what they'll do. You know what I mean? And I saw online lately they took the same two brothers, Nia Ankum and Kum Hotep, these two brothers, and they drew this up, and I found this on the internet on a gay site. You seen that before? Yeah. So this is what they're saying, and so this is how they exaggerate the fraud that they perpetuate against our culture. You know what I mean? Now, these are some Siamese twins who lived in the 1800s, and their name was Chang and Ing. Now, if you go back to this picture right here and go back to this picture, it's almost the same. Nobody thought Chang and Ing was gay. They had families. You know what I mean? They had families. They had grandkids, and they died. Nobody thought they were gay. But here's the problem. Here's the problem. And I want to talk to y'all for a second. Here's what you got to stop doing. You got to stop promoting to your straight kids gay heroes. You can't do that anymore. You know, you can't do it because you're living, when your son or daughter goes outside that door, they are infested with homosexual energy. Everything in their school, the teacher, the parents, the politics, the president, everything, Hollywood, everything is gay. Everything is accepting gay. So if you tell your child that there was a gay hero that you need to respect, you're basically telling your children to be gay. You better be very careful because we live in a very highly homosexualized social climate today. You know what I mean? Now, there's a lot of things about James. There's a few things that James Baldwin said that I appreciate back in the day. There were some interviews he did on TV talking about religion. I agree with him, you know. There was some things he said in interviews and debates. There's a couple things he said in maybe one book that was on point when he's talking about our culture, you know, talking about the white man. I mean, who can't identify with that? But you can never mention James Baldwin's name to the next generation because he was a bona fide homosexual. So you can't mention his name. You're causing irreparable damage if you mention James Baldwin was a great author. You're telling your 5-year-old that, your 10-year-old that. And he was gay, but he was a great gay author. And then you send your kid out in the homosexual world. And you don't think those energies going to, you know, consume him? You can't do that. There's a lot of things, they're not a lot, but there's some things that James Baldwin said that you might agree with. But for strategic purposes, don't mention, find some other activists that you can name. There's a lot of activists in the 60s. He wasn't the only writer in the 60s. You know what I mean? Yes, ma'am. Detach. Yeah, you know, it starts with retraining the mind, right? And put a heavy emphasis on Africanism, African procreation. Tell the truth about what procreation means according to the African ancestors, the lineage that you belong to, your bloodline, how important it is for the survival of a race that a man and woman procreate into the future. You know what I mean? Just tell you, but it has to be detailed because this generation, the kids, are getting so much outside the home. You have to sit down and take some serious time to explain it and then reinforce it. You know what I mean? Audre Lorde. I'm a man, and so a man, my energies are always towards women. So I hate dykes. I never did like dykes. I always, I don't deal with homosexuals, but just something in me I never did like, because I'm a man who loves women. You know what I mean? So Audre Lorde was, if I hear Audre Lorde's name one more time in a spoken word piece or a neo-soul song, she's some great activist. No, she wasn't. She preyed on little girls. She was a lesbian. She was a predator. You know what I mean? And I'm going to prove it to you. Check this out. This is an interview that Audre Lorde did in 1980. This is an interview that she did with Carla Hammond. And Carla Hammond probably was gay herself. And this is with the American Poetry Review, March, April, 1980. And this is what Audre Lorde says. She says, but the true feminist deals out of a lesbian consciousness, whether or not she ever sleeps with women. Now, that part is true. That part is true. That part is true. That part is very true. Let me read that again. But the true feminist deals out of a lesbian consciousness whether or not she ever sleeps with women. Because feminism is based on segregating yourself from men. And when you segregate yourself from men, you look inward at your own gender. And you end up being lesbians. You know what I mean? Absolutely. So that goes on. So while black sisters don't like to hear this, I would have to say that all black women are lesbians because we were raised in the remnants of a basically matriarchal society, no matter how oppressed we may have been by patriarchy. You see, that's the problem I have, right? That's the problem I have. Because, like, I grew up in a neighborhood, right? I grew up in a neighborhood with all women. All mothers. There was no fathers in my neighborhood. Does that mean I grew up in a matriarchal society? No. You know, just because I didn't have a father in the house don't mean that was a matriarchal society. We had the big boys in the neighborhood. We had, the coach, and my uncle came through, and we all hung around each other. Matter of fact, my mother rarely knew what I was doing. You know what I mean? And so just because you grow up in a neighborhood or an environment where a gender is missing disproportionately doesn't mean it's a matriarchal or a patriarchal society. And the feminism is really something that African women who are not feminists, the beautiful sisters that's in here tonight, you have to take this message to your girlfriends out there, your coworkers out there. We cannot be suppressed vocally anymore because we're losing the war. So you have to start talking to people. I don't want to. That's your gender group. Talk to them about how divisive feminism is. And the longer you think that the man is your enemy, the more you're going to be. The more your attraction to women is going to gain traction, and you have to be very careful. You know what I mean? So it started in 1970s. It started with you see Coretta Scott King. Now here you want to align yourself with European women. White women hate you. They're jealous of you, and they always hated you. So why do you think they want? So why do you think they want to align with you with this organization called feminism? Because the white man put them up to it to divide the black man and the black woman. That's what it's about. You know what I mean? See, and I would go as far as saying that feminism has seeped into the so-called conscious. And first of all, there's no such thing as a conscious community. When you wake up, you're conscious. There might be variations of consciousness, but there's no such thing as no conscious community. But I would say this. I would say, you know what I'm saying, bro? But I would say this. I would say that I think that the feminism has seeped into the African-centered community. Now let me tell you a story about what happened to me, and I want y'all to tell me, was this feminism or not? Maybe it's me. Last year, I'm MaaXeru Tep, the great author and all that. Sister contacted me in New York. I got your book. I love your book. It's so deep. I said, yeah. Thank you. We developed a friendship on Facebook. I go see her. No, I had an event in Brooklyn, in Queens, an event that night. So she called me. She said, when are you coming to New York? I would love to meet you. I love your book. I tell everybody about it. I said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I got an event in Queens. Where do you live? She said, I live in Brooklyn. I said, okay, I'm going to drive up to Brooklyn. Name a spot. I'll meet you there. We can talk for about an hour. You know what I mean? And it's all good. Oh, yeah, I can't wait to meet MaaXeru Tep. I said, okay. You're going to meet him. I'm going to come on up. It's not a problem with me. I don't play that game. I ain't Michael Jackson. We can just hang out. So I tell the sister, I go up there, usually from D.C. to New York. It's about 3 hours, maybe 3.5. But it was some traffic, the tolls. It was raining. So I get up there early because I don't want to, hold the sister up. So I she told me about this vegan restaurant in Brooklyn, 2 blocks from her house, right? Now, the sister on Facebook with all the Ankh earrings, the wraps, the long comedic name, right? So I go to New York. Maybe I'm wrong. I want the sisters to talk to me. Maybe I'm wrong. But I'm thinking it's feminism 101. But y'all tell me. All right, so I go to New York. I find a way. I use my thing. I find it. I'm in Brooklyn. I see the vegan restaurant. I go to the vegan restaurant. And as she told me to let's meet at 4 o'clock, Tep. I said, that's perfect. I'm going to meet you at 4. So I get there at 3:30. So I get there at 3:30, got my books out. I'm in there. I'm reading another book. I'm reading some books, eating my little vegan thing. But I'm going to try to hold off because I'm going to wait for her so I can really eat. You know how we do, right? So I get to the restaurant. And so 3:50 go by. 3:55 go by. 4 o'clock go by. So at 3:55, I sent her a text. Hotep, sis. This is MaaXeru Tep. I'm here. I'm at the vegan restaurant on whatever, Flatbush, whatever we was at in Brooklyn, right? I said, okay, so I'm here. So she texts me back 10 minutes later at 4:05. Now, remember, we're supposed to meet at 4 o'clock. So she texts me back at 4:05. Oh, Tep, I'm just finishing up with the womb circle with the sisters. Just give me a few minutes. I said, okay. I said, okay. So I waited there till 4:57. I wrote it down. So at 4:57, she came in, oh, MaaXeru Tep. and I'm like, so you mean to tell me, I ain't say nothing to her. I went on, we ate our little vegan food, we hugged, we talked about Kemet, we talked about traveling, blah, 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 and I went to my event. But I'm saying to myself, hold up. I remember a day when a woman, if she met a man that she was attracted to and she admired, there was nothing women could do for her to stop her from hanging out with that man. You remember those days? Sister, you remember those days, right? Not that you're old enough, but I'm just saying, you remember those days. You know, but you remember those days, right? But now, we got a sister that's going to tell me to wait 1 hour at a restaurant while she celebrate the vagina with a bunch of females. I'm not feeling that, y'all. To me, that's feminism 101. You know what I'm saying? When I go to the Mayweather fight over my boy's house, as soon as the fight's over, if no females is there, I'm out of there. I'm like, okay, well, they was like, yeah, man, no females here. The fight's over. I'm done. If a brother walked to me and said, hey, Tep, look here, man. I'm going to Jimmy's because we having a penis circle tonight. What kind of gay, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I'm saying, man, I knew something was wrong with that dude. Talking about we going to meet and celebrate the penis. Here's my thing. Now, I want y'all to pay close attention to this, right? I believe that we know how special and unique and clairvoyant the woman has always been perceived in African culture. We know because of the neurotransmitters in your brain, you think 10 times faster than men. We get that. We know how special you are. Now, there is no competition between the womb and the penis because the penis has no value without the womb, and the womb has no value without the penis. See, we talk about ma'at. This is all ma'at. This is all balance. You know what I'm saying? But here's what I would say. I would say this. The only time, theoretically, that the womb should be celebrated with more value than the penis is when the African community is at peacetime. That makes sense to me. Now, the majority of our life should be at peacetime. So the majority of our life, naturally, organically, we should be celebrating the womb. Forget the penis. We just men. But when we're at wartime, right? When we're at wartime, we have to celebrate the penis because the penis belongs to the man who's going to protect the womb, protect the community. This is the Karamanjang of Uganda. And when they're going in competition with each other, just a competition, they celebrate the penis. When they feel there's an impeding war going on, they come out and they celebrate the penis. They want everybody to rally around the man because the man has to protect you. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so from this point, we're going to take a little break.